Hello guys, welcome to another backtesting video. Today I will be explaining the trade that I've taken on Monday. It was a winning trade. Let me explain why I took it, what I saw, my weekly bias, my daily bias, and everything, right? A to Z, everything I will tell you. So on GU, my weekly bias was bullish, as you can see here. My weekly bias was according to how this candle closed here. It was a bullish pin bar. So next week I'm looking for trades that are aligning with the bias being bullish, and the opposite, which will be bearish on DXY. And the daily bias on GBP USD was bullish. And you may argue why you took the Monday trade. You say that you don't trade Monday. Why are you taking Monday trade? Because Friday closed as a bullish candle, right? Friday closed as a bullish candle. Now it makes sense for Monday to continue with Friday. And also, the bias being bullish on Monday is aligning with the weekly bias being bullish. But we know that if my weekly profiling, if the bias is bullish, first it makes sense to go and make the low of the week and then high of the week, right? I get that, but all we are doing is following the trend, and let's see if we get our setup. Why not, right? So this was the previous week high, this was the previous week low. On the 4 hourly I marked those, and this was the break of structure here. This was the low that caused this high. The market is still trading between these highs and lows, and until and unless this wick is body closed above, I will not consider anything. So right now the market is still bullish for me. The previous week high and low are here, and this is when I go to the lower time frames like hourly, and my bias is bullish. So obviously you can argue that we can start the market structure from here, but you know what, now I'm experienced, so I will mark these lower highs, lower lows, and this is the lower high, lower low, change of character, lower high, lower low, higher high, sorry. The market changed character here, so this is a strong demand zone here on the hourly. So obviously at this point I wait for my Asian range to close, and after the Asian range only I can confirm the zones that I'm gonna trade. Clear? So this was simple analysis. The trades that I'm winning are so simple, the trades I'm losing are so complicated. Today I took a loss on front testing, as the mistake that I'm making is I'm not waiting for the A-class setups. I'm taking every trade that I'm literally taking discretionary trades. So I have to fix that. Only take trades with the bias, and less is more. Only take less trades. Take less trades and with the bias. I have to apply that. Not every day is trading there. Okay, so here on Friday we can clearly see on DXY the same sort of thing. DXY, my bias is bearish according to how this Friday candle closed. And on the H4, if I show you, the market structure shifted here. As you can see, there is a change of character right there on the 4 hourly. So this was a market change of character here. The market is still trending between this high and low. So whatever happens here, it's consolidating, right? As I've told you, as we have learned the last week. And also on the H4 we can see now the market is literally, obviously if we are looking for sells on DXY, then I will look for supply zones, right? And on the 4 hourly I've marked the previous week highs and lows, and now that is when we go to the H1 time frame. And on the H1 I mark the previous day's highs and lows, and the closest zone I can mark right now is this weekly supply zone and fair value gap right here. Sorry, not weekly, hourly supply zone and fair value gap. Whereas on the M15 time frame, this is now when I obviously wait for the Asian range to close. Only after the Asian range is closed I can confirm my bias, confirm my zones, and I wait for the Asian range to close. The Asian range close, something like that. That is when I go to the lower time frames like M15 to M30 to mark the demand zones. So this was the demand on the M30, this was the liquidity to be swept, previous structural liquidity. And even on the M15, this was the M15 demand zone, and this was the previous structural liquidity, right? So most ideal case scenario would be something like this. The most ideal case scenario would be something like that. And yep, the market went up. It was a continuation setup. As you can see, the Asian high got swept. Literally only take continuation setups if the breakout of the Asian range happens very aggressively like this, and fair value gaps are formed. And after the fair value gap fill and demand zone mitigation, we need rejection, bro. Until and unless we see rejection, how can we take a trade, right? So only after we see rejection, that is when I take the trade, and let's see if it's a winner or loser. And there was also DXY correlation, don't get me wrong. DXY literally went up and swept the Asian high, and oh, DXY did sweep the Asian high, right? So there was also SMT. DXY swept the Asian high right here, and GU didn't sweep the Asian low. So what does that mean with the bias? With the bias being bullish, obviously DXY bias was bearish, so it swept the Asian high, very good. But DXY, that means that DXY doesn't need to go and sweep the Asian low. That's SMT for you. So this trade was also SMT, which is smart money technique. And so many confluences coming together: M15 rejection, M1 change of character, H1 market structure shift to bullish with huge volume, and yeah, the rest was history. It was a winning trade, and this was the first trade I took on March. Always give your stop loss room to breathe. If you were stingy with your stop loss, obviously you would get stopped out. But if you have given your stop loss room to breathe a bit, at least 0.5 pips, then yeah, it would have been a winner, and the rest is history, as you can see, right? So in this trade, we also learned that there can be SMT, as we saw in this trade. The Asian high got swept on DXY, whereas the Asian low didn't got swept on GBP USD. So yeah, with the bias, we use SMT with the bias, as we know, and yeah, it did work. This trade did work in my favor, and whenever the trade is going in my favor, I'm getting huge risk to rewards like this. It was a 1:6 if I hold it, but yeah, bosh.